Hey, we are back with Professor Avramelli. We're going to talk about the frogs.
The issue of the frogs has been dedicated a full chapter, a full sugya, a entire subject which is being dealt with, and even the very name of frogs, Sepharadaim, has 5 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is no such Hebrew word as a 5-letter root, and even that requires some thinking. And it seems that it is a lot under the surface. One sees that the case of the Sfaradim triggered the entire plague, the cultivation of frogs in ancient Egypt. While the frogs have a full cycle of metamorphosis from tadpoles into frogs, and in many ways are very symbolic, they too can be cultivated and to breed diseases. And the West Nile disease in particular, a carrier of bacteria and a carrier of salmonella and fungi, can be used to trigger great diseases which on cattle and boils and a whole series of ailments. And certainly a superpower such as Egypt would have cultivated, with their wise and with their magicians, would have cultivated this, and the whole section here is dedicated to how it was perceived that Moses was triggering or releasing frogs from the Nile, and the magicians reproduced this and seem to have let their own collection of frogs to balance the delicate ecosystem, and they also let these frogs go, seeming to trigger a bacterial or a virus or a plague.
Okay, can you explain to us this scene, what we are seing here, that at the end, Pharaoh is asking Moses to pray for him?
That Moses is asking Pharaoh to turn to God on his behalf. Actually, the story of the plagues has been taken somewhat out of context. It's presented as the 10 plagues, but there could be many more, and there could be many less, and there is a series of events and domino and the question is, what started what? And I think in this case there is some non-clarity and purposeful non-clarity. There's ambiguity here, because it seems that perhaps the first plague may have been the plague of the hail. The hail, the only natural, and the darkness possibly, but the hail was the only natural occurrence that could not be controlled by factors, because it had to do with weather or volcano or something that caused a very unusual cataclysmic effect. If that were predicted, then everything else could be explained, the destruction of the cattle and then the disease and the plagues that came from it. In the other chapter, further, chapter 9, we actually see a completely different side of Moses, and it may be also a different period of time. Moses seems to be sending he seems to have entered Egypt and be warning that there is going to be a hail plague. He seems to know some pre-advanced knowledge, and he warns the Pharaoh, take your cattle inside because they're going to be destroyed. And in the case of the cattle, the Egyptian cattle were going to be destroyed, and the Israelite cattle were going to be saved. there seems to be also some control over the infection rate of the different groups of cattle. This also draws back to Israelite or Jacob's ability to preserve the health and the cultivation of cattle and different cattle types, which may have related to their ability to survive under certain conditions.
So, does it seem here that somebody is crying in this text?
Well, you've pointed at a ambiguity in the text. You see here that in the house that everyone will suffer from the frogs which are coming up from the river. You and your servants and your people, and it will get into your ovens, and it will be in your areas, your preparation areas. And then there's a play on the word. It could be and in you and in your nation, in you personally. But there's a play on words. There's a double entendre. And it says and in you, but it also could mean and crying. It's another word. Bacha is to cry and to groan. So, and also it could mean the final chaf could be and in you. And there's a play on it, because it also could mean ubeko, and in thus, and in your people and in all your servants, the frogs will go up and they will infest. So here it is, a demonstration of the expression of the divine, or the cunning of the divine, into a different word, a new and unusual 5-letter word in a creature, and which will take over Egypt and will trigger a plague and will change and metamorphosize the face of the nation.